Ladies and gentlemen, an important part of running an air show is the volunteers, the organisation of volunteers who give their time and effort to help make these shows happen, whether it be helping you in the car park, marshalling aircraft, running the ticket booth. There's a whole horde of people who volunteer. And if you get a chance, be polite, say thanks. They're helping make this show happen. Okay folks, there goes the Cessna 206 with the Skydiver on board in addition to the pilot. They're taking off now, they're going to climb up to altitude, get up to a few thousand feet, whereupon once everything's ready, and they're in the right position. These 20, 30, 40, all the way through the modern aircraft. Such as Paul Bennet Airshows, currently acting up to the ready to launch. So within the aircraft, at least you've got to warm up your engine, make sure your temperatures and pressures pro. Nice big path down the runway to get things started. Classic Paul Bennet manoeuvre. So Paul's going to climb as fast as he can. Up to the approximately 4 to 5 Gs, that's 4 to 5 times the force of gravity that we're experiencing as we stand here on the surface of the Earth. He is looking at the parachute and flag to make sure he's in the right position. Meanwhile, he also has to look back into the cockpit and check that all his instruments are okay, and keep an eye on his altitude. The jumper today is Chris Garcia. He's had about 16 years of jumping with over 11,500 jumps. He's 35 years old, married with child, and is an instructor for accelerated freefall or tandem jumps with Skydiver Oz. He got into parachuting, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. A phrase you may hear from many people who get into various forms of aviation. This is currently flying his parachute, bringing it down with the weight of the flag underneath. Creates a bit of a pendulum effect. It has to be well ahead and of the inertia, which can be kind of difficult when you've got that enormous buzzsaw of Paul Bennet's Pro flying around you. Once they get down to a predetermined altitude, Paul will stop circling. There's Paul hovering, holding it at the top there, kicking it over. Not once, but twice. Up and over to a single stall down, or having it is not bad, but having the second one really ups the difficulty level there. A bit of excitement to get things going. Hope everyone enjoyed that. I sure did. Alright now we're about to get the Tiger Moth ready to go. Now the idea behind this air race is that it's not everyone start at the same time, everyone race around the track and the first one back is the winner. It's going to be everyone being released on 2 minute intervals, one aircraft after the other. And the idea being that they have to go away. Now the ball's back on the ground, we've got our next civilian aircraft coming into land, and that would be the Cessna 206, the jump aircraft. You'll see a lot of these aircraft all around airports around Australia. The Cessna is a very popular aircraft all around the world. Tails up, no to skid. Tiger Moth still have their original replaced with their tail wheels. They have a skid on the back. Great on grass, not so good on tarmac. So the RAF Heritage Tiger Moth is away. Meanwhile, lining up. Grant of War and Fletcher. As you'll notice, this Tiger Moth has a tail wheel. Very important if you are operating from the airport and tarmac. Using the tail skid, it'll get worn out a lot quicker on tarmac than on grass. Grant and Lauren away. Heading off. Tail comes up pretty quick, doesn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, we've had an iPad turned in. If you've lost your iPad, okay, that's Gary Hearn today is flying that aircraft. We'll be seeing some more of the Tiger Moth's always flying from the back seat with the passenger. Rather appropriate legislation of PVC, and it's been signed by Andrew Beach. Well, the tail came up quite quickly on that yellow one. Here we go, he's away. Okay folks, that's the last of the Tiger Moths taking off. As noted, it's not a speed trial, it's not who's going to be, especially in a crosswind. Flying around the outside of a barrel. It says, as you get closer to 12 knots, as you get closer to its 12 knot crosswind limit, it really becomes a handful. we're away well, we're ready to progress now to warbirds. Out of interest, you may not believe it, but one of these aircraft did actually manage to shoot down a Japanese Zero during World War II. Quite a famous incident, well reported in many locations. Pretty much the Zero was flying along, as they say, fat, dumb and happy, not really paying attention. These guys managed to drop down behind them and shot the thing out of the sky. There's a fun story about the Roulettes. A student was doing a night cross country. And what you have to do in those days is fire off a flare to go around a point. This thing was somewhat past saturated. He was doing his work, getting ready, he was at the turning point, pulled out the signalling cartridge gun and fired off the flare as he was supposed to, except he forgot to open his canopy. The resulting flare went off inside the cockpit, causing much distress for the pilot. It did cause a bit of night blindness, but he managed to keep it under control and eventually landed completely covered in soot. So he owed a few beers for that one, for sure. As much as I am. There was also a song about the Roulettes, among other things, touches on some of the more interesting aspects of flying an aircraft, including the need to juggle landing gear, hydraulics, and a number of other items as you're in the circuit getting ready to land. Very hands full, very busy, hands going all over the place as you're working with the aircraft prior to landing. There to signify his last pass. Now you can actually buy a wear-away motorhome from a company in Mildura that handcrafts each one. The company was apparently started by some former CAC employees, and I know this for a fact because I've been for a drive in one. My father-in-law has a wear-away motorhome. Caused a bit of a stir and I said, hey guys, I'm getting a ride to Newcastle Airport in a wear-away. They were like, oh wow, you're like buggy getting a ride in Paul Bennet Airshows. Then I pointed out there was a few of us on board, including our luggage. Got everyone wondering what the heck was going on until I finally posted a photo of the motorhome. Well played with some of the responses that were more polite. This particular wear-away is Paul Bennet, registered Whiskey Yanko. And first flew in 1940 and was serving with the RAF as A20-81. Was with number 5 Service Flying Training School and had a forced landing on Wodonga on May 1943. After it ran out of fuel when the pilot became lost on a night cross country. Except we never say lost, we say uncertain of position. Retired from the RAF in May 57, sold for scrap, and then re-registered in March 95 and is painted as A20-176. Here's Glenn bringing it in for a landing. Lovely landing there. You can see his feet working the rudder, the tail rudder moving side to side just to keep it straight. Okay. it's flying. Continue to watch it. That is as it gets stopped. Flying at 300 horsepower. Rocket ship that is 300. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to know more about this pilot or aircraft, make sure you check out the website, paulbennettairshows.com.au. My name is Rob Ryder, and I hope you'll join me in one big round of applause for Glenn Graham. Amazing display of aerobatics there by Glenn Graham. Oh, great, absolutely amazing. Really well by the instructors there. They'll be up. So on the special biplane list 12, the first picture is hanging stumps on the side of several of the aircraft, plus the stinker name. First ones were called stinkers. The second aircraft that built was called Little Stinker, owned by Betty Skelton, which bought it. The prototype S2 model and stinkers was known as the Big Stinker. The prototype Model 11, which became the S111B, very similar heritage to the Walker 65 and the Paul line. And if we look to the left, you'll see the first Tiger Moth return now. We're in the first of the department, the first one back. Bring it back in for a nice landing. So Interestingly, that aircraft was one of the last to depart, but has come back in first. So it'll be interesting to see if they got every end. Doubling that Tiger Moth, second oldest Tiger Moth in the country. He's flying by the Heritage Squadron, 100 Squadron. Third aircraft coming in. If you look to the north, look to the left. Okay, third aircraft coming overhead now. Another crew landing their Tiger Moth very nicely. Now back in September 1972, conservationist Brenda Heen and Tiger Moth pilot Max Price left Hobart to fly to Canberra to sign right Save Lake Pedder in the skies over National Parliament. Sadly, their plane vanished en route and they were never heard from again. This year, nice wing rattle. Here comes the next one over the top. There's ground floor and west of the landing. Get a big wave of me coming back in. Hanging up in front of the crowd there, round and long pleasure. That was actually helpful to our record, being flying by the air, Warren and well. That's pretty solid. As there are many of the aircraft landing, the pilot in the back has the side doors down. Those doors can come up great when you're in cruise and it's cold, keep some of the wind off you. But when you're coming into land, it's very taxi, it's very handy to have them down so you can hang out the side of the cockpit and see what's happening around you. If you look to the left of the sky, you'll see the yellow Tiger Moth. Coming back in, that's Adam Wright and Gerald Waddington. Once all the aircraft are down, I'll be looking at their planes, I'll be checking their fuel, screwing the airs, I'll be doing their work. It's quite warm down here on the ground, but when you're flying in an open cockpit, 1,000 or 2,000 feet off the ground, it can get a little cooler. we go, that's the last of them coming overhead. That is Bravo Bravo Charlie, being flown by Andrew Biggs and Dave Jardine. Camera plane is going to be landing, and we're also going to have the Cessna 206 jump aircraft from Skydive Oz is going to be departing. So a little bit of traffic just keep going. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just recovering the camera plane. They took off after the Tiger Box to get air-to-air footage, and we're hoping to get back to beforehand, but it wasn't quite to be. And while we're waiting for Paul Bennet to fire up the Warp 6 Pro, just want to say a big thanks to airshows like this, not just the volunteers whom I was mentioning earlier today, but another significant component of these airshows are, of course, the sponsors. And we've got the Air Marshal sponsor level. These are the folks who give it more than anyone else. That includes Wardenshire, Inglewood and District Community Bank, Cadell Trading, Beers Lagoon Silage, and Frank and Sue Coglan, who have all helped to make sure that this show goes on. Big wave for the second last aircraft coming in. We also have our Commodore level sponsors, Lead Advisory, AMDA Foundation, that's from the Australian International Air Show, is one of the many shows they put on. Gold FM, Bridgewater Farmware, Goldfield Gravel, and Viva Energy have all helped contribute to make this show happen. On the group captain level, we've had Catalyst Metals, Tweed Sutherland. Followed by 1.5 vertical rolls left. At the top of the vertical, we'll roll over the top, setting up for the inside diving snap roll. nose of the aircraft perfectly vertical. At the top of the vertical, you put in hard left rudder and turn around not once, but twice. Giving it a roll rate of around 360 degrees per second. It's interesting to note that the wings on the aircraft are actually made of wood. Considered impossible by any aircraft. It's going to put the aircraft into a slow, nice vantage point, give you a beautiful view of this Wolf Kids Pro. Paul's actually quite famous for having a motorcycle do a backflip over the top of him while he does this maneuver. He's going to reposition, put the aircraft back on the deck at speeds of over 300 kilometres an hour as he sets up for his landing sequence. Paul's going to pull the vertical again with a few point rolls on the vertical up. At the top of the vertical, double hammerhead. On the down line, you'll hear pull the power, put the aircraft into a big side slip. He does this not only to slow the aircraft down because he doesn't have any flips, but also so he can actually see the runway. It's very hard to see everything in this aircraft, so he actually side slips up the runway.
That her nose was getting fat. Had all sorts of drugs and creams and all that sort of stuff.
Beautiful touchdown there by Paul. Well, that concludes Paul's solo display for today. If you'd like to know more about Paul, definitely go say hello. You can catch him at his merchandise trailer as well. But Paul will be flying again very soon. He's got 2. From behind now, ladies and gentlemen, the Royal Australian Air Force Roulettes in Eagle formation. Watch closely, you'll notice the position change throughout the loop to move into a wedge formation. As we spoke about before, today we'll be viewing the Roulette High Show, which is the most dynamic show the team can perform. It will demonstrate the full capability of both the team and the PC-21 aircraft that we fly. The team today is led by Squadron Leader Mark Kerritts as Roulette 1, Roulette 2 is Flight Lieutenant Ben Ness, Roulette 3 Flight Lieutenant Trent Sherman, Roulette 4 Flight Lieutenant Ben Hepworth, Roulette 5 Flight Lieutenant Dan Barclay, and at the back of the pack Roulette 6 Nathan Stankovicius. You can see the team is now positioned for the Roulette 2 is by side by side, directly behind Roulette 1. You can see the team has now moved from 6th pack into the twin formation. Have your cameras ready for the upcoming slide and break. Table, ball.
season with the Roulettes. Whilst you see these PC-21s today here in this impressive display, come Monday they'll be back in the air for pilot training at RAF Base East Sale. The PC-21 is the primary training aircraft for trainee pilots. It's quite impressive to think that someone that's never flown before can step into a PC-21 for the first ever flight. Ladies and gentlemen, eyes to the right now, Roulette 5 and 6 have joined forces for the mirror. A move made... Roulette 6, Flight Lieutenant Nathan Stankovic, standing over 2,000 feet to height. Synchronised pair as they pass overhead. Side performing the corkscrew today is Flight Lieutenant Bennet Airshows, who grew up in Hobart. He began flying at the age of just 16. Who grew up on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. He graduated pilot's course and became the youngest flying instructor at just 22 years of age. This is Dan's third season with the Roulettes, and today he'll display the solo performance characteristics of the PC-21 through a vertical roll and maximum performance turn. As they head towards ground centre, in the walk, they'll then come past for a flight pass. The smoke you see coming from the aircraft today is a mixture of fuel and mineral oil, which is generated by the pods on the wings. Not only is it impressive for the display, but it also improves safety by helping pilots avoid each other's weight, turbulence, and help maintain position. One of the most dynamic manoeuvres of the show now, Roulette 5 will rejoin the formation in preparation for rollbacks. Once again from the right, Roulette rollbacks. This will set the team up for the Vulcan formation. He graduated pilot's course in 2000. In the wedge formation, the barrel rolls to the right.
Flight Lieutenant Ben Phillips. Oh, sorry, Ben Price, my apologies. Major thanks to Flight Lieutenant Ben Price, Roulettes 7, for coming up here and helping explain to us who of the crew and what are they doing. So we also have the heritage formation, the Matt Henderson leading in the windshield, with Serpentine floors behind, or floors around here. Taking off at the moment, and then we're going to have the heritage formation go once.
Spitfires are a bit hard to come by.
United States Navy, United States Air Force, United States Marines and Coast Guard, as well as the Vietnamese Air Force and Royal Lao Air Force. Some of Bravo onwards, had an upgraded Paul's really having a lot of fun flying this aircraft for you. The G28 is also used as a counter Vietnam. And in fact, the T-28 was the first US two-wing all-transport aircraft lost in South Vietnam during the war. Up 23 of these lost during the war. Below the belly, helping to slow the aircraft. So just imagine you've never flown an aircraft before, and you get marched out to the flight line and told this is going to be your first ever aircraft to fly. And it's probably as big as some people's apartments, definitely the Commonwealth Aircraft Company Corporation aircraft built here in Australia, and flanked by two CT-4s. Get a good story about the history of the CT-4, I highly recommend going to the Wings Over New Zealand podcast. Dave Homewood has just released an episode recently where he actually talks with some of the people from Pacific Aerospace in New Zealand who were involved in the design and build of the CT-4. Lays to rest a number of the myths about that aircraft. But as I mentioned, the Wingill in the lead is being flown by Matt Henderson, while the two CT-4s are being flown by Gary Hearn and Steve Gilmar. The Wingill, of course, with the radial engine, giving it that, as we say, sound of round, while the CT-4s have continental, I believe, flat 4, flat 6 engines. Quite different to hear the sounds of these aircraft as they come past. So the CT-4A originally had a 210 horsepower engine, but these ones have been upgraded, the CT-4Bs and beyond. And there was even a CT-4 with a turboprop that was done, the CT-4C. But the Kiwi Air Force and Royal Thai Air Force ordered the CT-4E with a 300 horsepower engine. So you can see them coming in towards us. The CT-4 of course replaced the Wingill, and I know one young student of the time probably wished they'd replaced the Wingill a little earlier, because he completely stuffed up when he was learning to fly down at Point Cook, and after landing was told by the instructor get out and run back to dispersal. So as he ran in all his gear, the instructor slowly taxied behind him with the Wingill, so he had that big radio and a prompt go whoop 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 behind him, giving him more incentive to run. So that gentleman is now over in New Zealand. He went on to fly Sabres and have quite the career. But yes, he tells that story, and it's quite unbelievable, but it actually happened. sound. From January 1975 to May 1993, the 64B served with both essential flying school in sail and one flight training session. As the soloist heads back towards the north to join up with the other aircraft. Fortunately, the windshield was retained for basic flying training, as the all-jet concept didn't quite work out. Back in 1965, the windshield was replaced by the CC4. However, a few were maintained, being used in the forward air controller role, and were operated by a number 4 flight, and used smoke bombs to mark targets so faster aircraft would roll in and know where to put their weaponry. This was this kind of forward air control, made very popular in Vietnam. What was called forward air control at the time, the very first use of such a technique was the Australian Roulettes, the aircraft that we saw flying earlier, being used to put smoke on the targets during World War II so that the Kiwi F4U Corsairs, a much faster aircraft, could roll in with rockets and bombs. So the first ever use of an old slow to point out the targets for a faster aircraft, and that has now developed to where we have forward air control, where in the RAAF they're flying PC-21s, and that pilot is controlling people on the ground, people in the air, coordinating everything. Very demanding and strenuous role. Now these aircraft cruise at about 260 to 270 kilometers an hour, or 143 knots. And have a max speed, probably in a dive, of 162 knots or 299, almost 300 kilometers an hour. Often referred to as gentlemen's aerobatics. It is fun. I've done this kind of aerobatic flying a number of times with friends. If you get the opportunity, highly recommend it. Slowly work up and see if you how you go, but generally 3 to 4 Gs. Earlier, 3 to 4 Gs is about what you feel on a roller coaster, but I can assure you this is a lot smoother when you're up in the aircraft. None of the rattling and bumping around over joints and the rails. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been asked to give a public service announcement for all the Tiger Moth pilots from the air race. If you're involved in the Tiger Moth air race, if you're one of the pilots or passengers of the committee, please, you've got 20 minutes, be there by 10:02. Over at the trailer where the stand is for the presentations. So all those involved in the Tiger Moth Great Race, please make your way over to the trailer, the presentation zone. There's Matt bringing in the windshield from the show left, from the north. degrees of landing there. Well, compared to some of my landings, that was absolutely perfect. I was given the code. Everyone thought when I was landing a Cessna, it was take that runway and that and that and that as I whacked my aircraft into it. Probably. So folks, things that we have to look forward to after the presentation from the air race. We have the mighty 802, the air tractor. We're going to see a firebombing display, which should be quite spectacular. We've then got the Grumman Avenger, the World War II torpedo bomber. There's a very large blue plane with the yellow nose and the wings folded, the arrows on it. When that's flying, I'll tell you what those arrows mean. We've also got a demonstration of drone flying from Fire Rescue Victoria. And there's going to be a Tiger Moth handling and Wolf Pits Rebel 300 formation aerobatics, not to be missed. Absolutely spectacular flying from two people we've seen flying solo so far. That would be Glenn Graham in the Rebel 300, the blue aircraft with the white wings, and Paul Bennet in the Wolf Pits biplane. And they're going to do some formation aerobatics. Spectacular flying once again, nice version class. I'm just looking up to our cockpit, the primary one, lots of fire, the woods and tank, and the failure. There's the pilot, and probably the pilot, Frank and Sue Coglan. There was about 12 there. I'd like to thank Frank and Sue Coglan. You're standing on their bit of dirt at the moment. So they've sacrificed this bit of land. They will have lost a bit of production from it while we're doing this air show, but thank you very much, Frank. Commander would have a much better appreciation of what each aircraft can do, or is it someone who's more involved on the fire, understanding the fire requirements, or both? It's a bit of both. People that are air attack supervisors are long-time ground firefighters. There's no point putting people in the air if they don't know what goes on the ground. And so they're trained across the agency for firefighters. This is one of 14 fixed-wing fly-bombing aircraft in the state. That doesn't include the RJ-85 and the Q400 at Avalon. So we call these single-engine air tankers, six. Yeah. And there's 12 of these 802s, and they're capable of carrying about 3,200 litres of water, foam or retardant. And if you have a look at the taxi's pass with the door that runs down the fuselage there
that door is capable of doing multiple drops.
Yeah.
So he can do a big string line drop, he can do multiple drops, and he can also restrict the doors and do a big long drop, or he can actually open it all up to a full salvo. So it depends on what you're trying to do, whether you're trying to cover grasslands, punch through canopy into trees. It really depends on the circumstances. In the main, these aircraft they use both the indirect and direct attack. And you'll see the power of these things. I mean, they need about a strip, where we are today, 30.
Oh yeah.
But they can operate because they're aircraft as well.
Yeah, you've got that hopper not just for water, but also in the old days, superphosphate, whatever else.
Well, they still use these aircraft for spraying. They still use them for spraying in the off-season. So these aircraft are contracted to the state of Victoria for anywhere between 10 and 14 weeks. And then when they're not being used by us or they're in another state, then they use them for ag work. And of course, there's a lot of ag work on, which is good for the farmers, good for the communities.
Yeah, he's just gone back home, but he said he'll be back out in September, so I'm hoping to catch up with him.
Now, as these craft the fire on whether it's forest fire management or CFA or FRV have been alerted by the pager or a phone call and they're heading to that fire, and Steve's loaded and off he goes and takes off as well.
Very loaded.
So he's capable of 3,200 litres of water. You know, that's over 3 tonne that he's carrying there. Today he's got about 2,500 litres of water on, and we run all of these single engine air tankers or seats in pairs. Okay. So you go out and like we do with fire trucks, you don't just send one, you send two. So we basically call these aircraft.
That much water comes through the canopy, so I guess the full salvo would be through the 100 mile entry.
And then he'll do the drop. Now, if the wind was blowing our way, we might all get a shower today, but it's not in our favour.
After today, the heat I could probably do is a shower before driving home. But a siren on the aircraft, I know a few people who wish they had that on their Cessnas.
Well, the siren is to warn the crews. We always make sure from a safety point of view that the ground crews are clear, because you can imagine 3 tonne of water being dropped on someone or dislodging branches. We'll just pause here for a minute. If he's inbound for the drop, you'll hear the siren and then he'll open the doors. Drop like he's just done, and as we strung that out, we'd have the second aircraft in the circuit with him. He'd see where he dropped, and then we'd say, okay mate, we want you to tag on and extend to that, or we want you to roll up to that drop, or we want you to go to another. The way they can operate, he's just coming back in now to have a bit of a look and simulate what it might be. But it's a very impressive aeroplane, very agile, and these guys really know how to handle it.
Oh, yeah, 1,700 shaft horsepower, about 1,700 RPM, half of the Avenger. Folks, that's 2,000 horsepower of happiness, or at least very close. So basically it allowed you to look at what you were flying, look at what was on the deck, and make sure you landed on the correct carrier, because if you didn't, you got in all sorts of trouble, had to buy people beers, and in fact in some cases they'd even tag your aircraft. And that still happens to this day. During the Middle East operations, when they had multiple carriers operating in the Gulf, a couple of American aircraft landed on the wrong American carrier. On the correct places, zaps of course being squadron stickers and things like that. So that's what the arrows mean. It's an indication of which ship you belong to. This is the only TBM Avenger flying in Australia. It was restored by Mike Long at Air Gold Coast back in 2005. It actually saw combat in World War II before becoming a fire bomber. turbocharged engine with a twin-stage blower. I include that information for you rev heads who happen to like your V8s and all that, so that you can acknowledge just how powerful this engine is. And I've had the privilege of flying in the back of this aircraft, returning from an air show some time ago, and it is a hoot. Some famous personalities associated with the Avenger. George Bush Sr. flew Avengers during World War II and was shot down over Chichijima after releasing his payload to hit the target before having to bail out. And he received the Distinguished Flying Cross for that one. And in fact, one of the aircraft that George Bush Sr. has flown was flying in Australia as VHB-TB. It was purchased by a group in the USA and returned to that country some years ago. Unfortunately, in 2018, it suffered an engine failure, but otherwise it would still be in the air. But let's have a listen to this one and imagine a fleet of these coming past to attack. As you can notice, it's got that long glasshouse canopy. It's back on the mission, and you have to land the aircraft this big back on the deck, just with the tail, and occasionally a ridge barrier. You'll see the rudder moving back and forth as Glenn works to keep the aircraft nice and straight. With a tailwheel aircraft, the phrase is you haven't really finished flying it until it's shut down and tied down. Never ever ever get relaxed, because the aircraft will bite thanks to centre of gravity and centre of lift and so on. Side wind and so on the tail. Not uncommon for the Now, for those of you that didn't see it before, when Glenn brings back the... Let's have a listen to them as they depart, one after the other. If you're up near the flight line, you'll get an appreciation for just how big this aircraft is. Well, there goes the wing.
Visual line of sight, Grant, so you make sure that you can see them at all times and they're not outside of your vision. Up to 120 metres in the air, and we're not allowed to go.
This aircraft today being flown by Squadron Leader Paul Bennet.
Served as RAF serial A85-439. Delivered in November 1956, it served with 1 basic flight training squadron, flight training school, rather. Even served as a training aid at Wagga Wagga for the mechanics and so on. Eventually it was transferred to the RAAF Museum at Point Cook, where it was in flying condition, and joined the RAF Historic Flight, now known.
Now those of you who are in the right place near the fence may have seen Paul and Glenn doing the preparation for the flight, also known as the chicken dance, where they walk through on the ground what they will do when they're flying in formation. It allows them to lock down in their mind ready to fall on the ground. So for skydivers it's known as a dirt dive, where you just do the planning and get it in your mind before you get in the aircraft. Sound of round, as we like to call it, the radial engine. In this particular instance, I'll be back with you in just one sec. In the cab. Finding things that were very new at the time. Aerobatics major, and as the heritage flight tie them off the parts, we're about to start the run in.
Beautifully coordinated. Fascinating to see the smaller aircraft at Paul's. Able to just turn so much smaller trust required between these two pilots. A lot of rehearsals, practice, knowing where to look. You've got to be in exactly the right spot. Coordinated shoulder rolls, always good. Beautiful formation landing there from the guys. That takes a lot of skill, a lot of practice. Folks, once the guys have pulled in and shut down, taken their helmets off and popped the canopies, they'll be able to hear you when you give them a big round of applause.